As you may already be aware, Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States, has passed away at the age of 100. My thoughts are with his family at this time. You may have heard he was preceded in death by his wife, Rosalynn Carter, towards the end of 2023. Many people have expressed surprise that Jimmy Carter lived as long as he did because of something called the Widowhood Effect. The Widowhood Effect refers to the sharply increased risk of death following the loss of a spouse. We see it in media and real life alike all the time. Grandma passes away, grandpa follows shortly after. This is sometimes called dying of a broken heart or just going to rejoin one another. There have been multiple studies of this, looking into the effects of losing a spouse across religions, race, gender, and more. Some of this is so individual and includes variations like overall health and pre-existing support community. Following the death of a spouse, the risk of death for the surviving spouse increases anywhere from 30 to 90% in the 3 months following the loss. The risk lessens after the 3-month mark. It's believed to increase the risk by only about 15% after the first 3 months. I'll link one of the studies below because I think a lot of the details are really interesting, including the fact it may impact men more than women. Overall, the widowhood effect has been attributed to a few different things. No one knows for sure, but here are a few likely factors. Number one is the overall stress of grief. Grief is a lot. It is a lot on the body, it is a lot on the mind, it is a lot on the heart, and that takes its toll. And that's also why it's so important to take care of yourself when you're grieving. Another reason could be the lack of support following a loss. There's obviously no way really to quantify support. However, having people who are nearby, demonstrating love and care, is helpful to people who are grieving. And 3 is just the toll of caregiving. Many caregivers end up giving their entire self to the act of caregiving and losing a part of their identity in it. And that can mean that they're not only looking after their own needs and their own health, but it also means that they don't really know how to define themselves or what to do after they have lost the person they were caring for. Now, there are parts of the grief experience we can't protect people from. Grief is difficult and it is complex and must be incredibly difficult when we're talking about a life partner. However, there are things that have been suggested that may assist in maintaining your overall health. So first and foremost, connect with others, especially because support sharply drops off in the weeks following a loss. And someone may be living alone for the very first time. Building a sense of community is essential. Reach out to your aunt or grandpa, bring lunch by one day, encourage them to join a walking group or a knitting club or an online support forum. I'll say this until I am hoarse. We were never meant to grieve alone. Number 2, having a pet. So I can personally attest to this. I adopted a dog almost immediately following my dad's death, and having a pet should always be a carefully considered decision. But a study did find that people grieving the loss of a spouse without a pet experienced higher levels of loneliness and depression than those who had a cat or dog. Also, seek professional help. Access to therapy can absolutely be limited by finances or other resources, but if you have the ability, going and seeking professional help can be a huge assistance. I did link a sliding scale option below. And finally, look after yourself. It is so easy to become absorbed in the loss of a loved one, especially if you were a caregiver. It can feel like you lost your identity, which is why it's so important to take the time to rediscover yourself, reconnect with yourself, and take care of yourself. Find the little parts of your routine you enjoy, like a cup of tea by the window or curling up with a cozy blanket and a good book. Be sure to get adequate sleep, move your body, and limit alcohol intake. Losing a spouse is an unimaginable loss, but there are people who care. And again, we're all sending a lot of support to Jimmy Carter's family in this difficult time.